A grey building, grey walls, grey oatmeal for lunch. In short, a place where childhood is handed out on ration cards. A man in a burgundy velvet suit walks down the corridor, and he looks here like a peacock in a coal yard. Albus Dumbledore ascends to the 3rd floor, knocks on the door of room 27, and enters to see the boy who will one day slice his soul into 7 pieces. Well, in the story, you know. Today we will cancel it. Tom Riddle sits on the bed and looks at the guest the way children do when they've been taken for a checkup by doctors 3 times already. Dumbledore introduces himself as a professor, talks about school, about magic. Tom doesn't believe a single word. He demands proof, and then the guest with a flick of his wand sets the wardrobe on fire. In the canon, this trick was both a threat and a test at the same time. Inside the wardrobe, a box rattled with items stolen from other children. The fire goes out, the wardrobe is intact, the box rattles on the shelf. Dumbledore asks him to open it. Harmonica, thimble, yo-yo, small trophies of a small predator. And here, watch closely, the story goes off the rails. The canonical Dumbledore coldly ordered the items to be returned to their owners and left, placing a mental checkmark on the boy. Observe. This Dumbledore takes the harmonica, twirls it in his fingers, and sits down on a creaky chair opposite.
You are gathering power over people, Tom. In small ways as you can. I know a wizard who does the same. Only his box is the size of Europe. His name is Gellert Grindelwald, and he will come for those like you. Talented, lonely, evil towards the whole world.
Tom is silent and does not blink. Dumbledore puts the accordion back into the box and closes the lid.
You will return the things, and in exchange, you will get something better. Me. Power without oversight becomes hunger, Tom. I will be your oversight.
The phrase is beautiful, agree? Remember it well, we will return to it. And believe me, by that time it will sound completely different. But for now, 11-year-old Tom Riddle hears for the first time from an adult not behave yourself, but you interest me. And somewhere in that second, the old story dies, never having been born. Hogwarts greets Riddle the same way as in canon. The hat yells Slytherin before it touches the top of his head. The difference begins the next morning, when the first year is given a note. Professor Dumbledore is waiting for him on Tuesdays after dinner. Additional classes. To be honest, from the outside it looks suspiciously touching. A transfiguration teacher and an orphan in an altered robe, bending over the same textbook. But look at the mechanics. Want a book from the restricted section? Sure, but the note is signed by Dumbledore. Want to study advanced transfiguration? Of course, in Dumbledore's office. Want to know what occlumency is? Great question. Ask Dumbledore. Every door in this castle opens with the same key, and that key has a beard. Tom quickly reads the scheme, he generally reads schemes quickly, and accepts the rules. Dependency in exchange for access. The deal of the century? No irony. By the 3rd year, a retinue gathers around Riddle, as is customary. Lestrange, Avery, Malfoy, the entire future guard. They bring him sweets from Hogsmeade and laugh at his jokes half a second before the joke ends. Dumbledore sees all this. He sees everything. It's his job. And he does nothing. The young professor stands by the window, watching as Riddle strides across the courtyard surrounded by Slytherins and tells a passing colleague that it's good for the boy to learn to lead people. Under supervision, of course. Everything under supervision. I've always thought that the biggest disasters start with the phrase under supervision. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Tom Riddle, the prefect, the pride of the school, finds what he has been searching for 4 years, bypassing all prohibitions, the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, the tap in the girls' bathroom on the 2nd floor, a snake on the valve, a whisper in parcel tongue. The stone parts, revealing a black abyss, and from the depths comes a chill and the scent of old scales. In the canon, there followed a year of terror, a dead girl, and a framed Hagrid. Here, Tom stands over the abyss for almost an hour. Then he turns around and walks through the entire castle, past the Slytherin common room, past the library, up to the office with the bronze instruments. He wakes Dumbledore in the middle of the night and says 4 words.
I found her. Let's go.
Here it is, the crossroads of all crossroads. Not because Tom has become good, let's skip the fairy tales. It's just that in his coordinate system, a person appeared before him for whom it is more advantageous to be the discoverer of the mystery rather than its owner. Vanity against power, and vanity pays more today. They descend together. The basilisk crawls out at the heir's call, 15 meters of ancient death, its eyes covered with a film because Tom ordered not to look. Dumbledore works for an hour, seals on every tunnel, sleeping charms layered like paint. Tom keeps the snake under control the entire time, and sweat runs down his temples, while his hands in the air do not even flinch. When the last seal flares up and fades, Dumbledore lowers his wand and looks at his student for a long time.
You could have told no one.
Good. But you would find out. You always find out.
And both understand that this is not exactly a compliment. Up in the Gryffindor Tower, third-year student Rubeus Hagrid is sleeping, and his acromantula Aragog is peacefully chewing on someone in the cupboard. No one will come for Hagrid with accusations, no one will break his wand. Moaning Myrtle will live to graduation and leave the castle alive, never knowing that in one version of events she was destined to die in a bathroom stall. A trifle? Remember this little detail too. Everything is firing today, just with a delay. In the canon, this is the year of triumph. Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald in the most beautiful duel of the century, and Europe exhales. Here, the duel also takes place. Nurmengard, Dawn, the 2 strongest wizards of the era face to face. And at the decisive moment, when Grindelwald's Elder Wand is knocked away and spins in the air, Dumbledore hesitates. Half a second. Before him is the face of the man with whom he once planned to reshape the world. And somewhere behind that face, Ariana, the Cellar, 3 wands, and 1 curse without a master. Half a second is a long time. Grindelwald calls the wand back with a non-verbal summoning and escapes through a portal, leaving a scorched circle at the duel's site and Dumbledore standing in it like a target. The newspapers write about a draw. The war continues. Europe burns for another 4 years instead of 0, and every morning the Owl Post brings lists of the dead to Britain. And against this backdrop, Albus Dumbledore does what the canonical Dumbledore would not have done under the Imperius. He approaches 19-year-old Tom Riddle, the best graduate of the decade, and offers him war. Officially, consultant to the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. In fact, weaponry. And you know what? The weapon works beautifully. Grindelwald's acolytes are being caught all over Europe, but they remain silent. Fanatics, mental blocks, just as it should be. Then a polite young man with slicked back hair enters the interrogation room, sits across from the prisoner, looks him in the eyes, and 20 minutes later, he walks out with names, addresses, and diagrams. Legilimency in his performance leaves no bruises. It leaves nothing at all, including sometimes even personality. The Aurors call him the Opener among themselves, but only in whispers and only when he is definitely in another country. Dumbledore is present at these interrogations. He stands by the wall, slightly to the side, and looks out the window. In the window, mind you, there is nothing interesting. A courtyard, a wall, rain. But it's easier to look there than at the table. By 1948, Grindelwald's trail is completely lost. And then Tom brings Dumbledore a book, a black cover without a title. The pages feel like foreign skin. The blood search ritual. The Ministry has dried blood of Grindelwald from the old duel site, and that is enough to find him anywhere on the planet. The price of the question is a spell from that section of magic, for which one can end up in Azkaban for a decade just for curiosity. Tom places the book on the ministerial table and waits. Dumbledore reads the necessary page 3 times. Then he closes the book, takes off his glasses, wipes them with a cloth. People have this habit to clean the lenses when they are not dirty at all. He puts them back on.
One time, Tom. One.
The ritual is triggered. The map of Europe on the table of the operational headquarters blooms with a scarlet dot somewhere in the Carpathians. Everyone applauds, someone opens a bottle of whiskey, and in the general noise, no one notices how Tom approaches Dumbledore. He stands next to him, looks at the same map, and speaks quietly, almost casually.
You knew what I would pay for this spell, what it does to the one who utters it, and you still nodded.
Dumbledore doesn't answer. He looks at the scarlet dot in the Carpathians, and his fingers lie motionless on the edge of the table, as if glued. Tom waits about 10 seconds. He knows how to wait. Then he nods to some thoughts of his own, and goes off to join the others to accept congratulations. Let's write it down. Silence number 1. There will be more. The Carpathians, winter of 49. The final assault on the fortress shelter would make a great movie. Protective domes are breaking. The Black Forest is burning. Auroras are moving in a chain. But we are interested in one room at the top of the tower where everything comes to an end. Grindelwald is disarmed. This time for real. The Elder Wand flies across the hall and lands in Dumbledore's outstretched hand, as if returning home. The old man, and by this point Grindelwald is already a greatly worn old man, is kneeling among the rubble and laughing. Without direct speech, I will convey it this way. He is laughing, and with his eyes shows Dumbledore the young man behind his shoulder, as if saying, "Look what you brought with you." Tom raises the wand. Dumbledore sees this. He has the Elder Wand in his hand. He has 1.5 seconds of time. He has the entire arsenal of the strongest wizard of the generation, shield, Expelliarmus, or even a shout. 1.5 seconds, this is, I remind you, 3 times more than those half seconds in 45. He does nothing. The green flash reflects in his glasses as 2 neat dots. Later, in the report, it will be written, "Eliminated while resisting." Then, at night, Dumbledore will tell himself, "It's safer that way." Grindelwald would have poisoned minds from Nurmengard for years, escaped, returned. A dead Dark Lord is more humane than a living one, if you count the lives saved. The arithmetic is flawless. Dumbledore has never had problems with arithmetic. The problems, as it turns out, were with the remainder of the division. Next, the fanfare, and here our story picks up speed. Magical Britain gains 2 heroes at once, and it is thrilled with both. The Order of Merlin, first class, to Dumbledore, the Order of Merlin, first class, to Riddle. The Prophet prints their joint portrait on the front page. The elder and the younger, the teacher and the student, the shield and the sword. Tom Riddle smiles from the photograph so impeccably that one wants to check his pockets. There is no Lord Voldemort in this reality, and there will not be. Why would a person need a pseudonym if his real name opens any door? The anagram will remain an unsolved puzzle in the diary, which, by the way, will never become a Horcrux. Tom Riddle's soul is intact. All 7/8 are in place. It turns out, however, that a whole soul is not yet a guarantee of quality. Tom is given a position in the Ministry, the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, then the Department of Mysteries, then something that doesn't even have a name in the directory. And Dumbledore is offered the post of Minister of Magic. In the canon, he refused this position 3 times because he was aware of one unpleasant trait. He should not be given power. He is too good at convincing himself. Here he agrees the first time. The wording, appreciate the beauty, to control Tom from within the system. Someone has to keep an eye on the most dangerous person in the country, and who could do it better than the one who raised him? Remember this logic. We will now go down step by step, and on each step there will be a sign saying to control. The 50s. Minister Dumbledore starts off wonderfully. Education reform, rights for werewolves, negotiations with goblins. The newspapers are in awe. And then one newspaper, Not The Prophet, but a small publication called The Watchman publishes an investigation into the interrogations of 48, about prisoners who, after conversations with consultant Riddle, have forgotten how to recognize their own children. The investigation is honest and, worse, accurate. Dumbledore does not close the newspaper. What are you talking about? He is simply passing through the Wizengamot, the Act on the Review of Publications from the war period. Temporary, of course, for 2 years. One cannot allow the country, barely risen from the ruins, to be destabilized. After 2 years, the Act is extended, then once more. The word temporary in legislation is generally surprisingly resilient. It outlasts any deadlines. Next, surveillance of the former acolytes of Grindelwald. They were amnestied, but who knows? Without trial, without warrants, a special commission, personally subordinate to the minister, for safety, of course. Then, the register of dark artifact holders. Everyone who has their great-grandmother's cursed medallion at home is required to register. Also a temporary measure. You already understand how the word temporary works here. And here is what is truly interesting in all of this. And honestly, this is why I'm telling you the whole story. Tom Riddle does nothing during these years. Absolutely nothing. He doesn't whisper, doesn't intrigue, doesn't slip dark books under the minister's pillow. He simply goes to work, impeccably carries out assignments, and sometimes submits reports, dry, well-argued, with statistics. Tom hasn't changed a bit since that evening at the orphanage. He is still the same boy with a box, who gathers power because he doesn't know how to gather anything else. The second participant in this story is changing, the one with the beard and the authority. Minerva McGonagall, a young transfiguration teacher, arrives at the ministry to coordinate the school budget and catches her former mentor signing yet another decree about the inspection of the Flu network. She reads the document over his shoulder, then walks around the desk and stands opposite him, straight as a wand.
Albus, 10 years ago, you would have burned this decree instead of signing it.
10 years ago, Minerva, there was a war.
The war is over. I was at the parade. But for some reason, there are no decrees.
Dumbledore signs. The quill scratches in the ensuing silence, particularly unpleasantly. McGonagall takes her budget and leaves, and her heels click on the ministerial marble like a local alarm bell that no one listens to. Around that time, a scene occurs that I consider the best in this story, even though no one raises their voice. Dumbledore enters Ollivander's shop. He simply walks in one evening when there are no customers, places the Elder Wand on the counter, and asks for another one to be chosen for him. Ollivander takes the legendary weapon with his pale fingers, examining it in the light, much like one would examine wine.
Complaints, Minister?
She has started to obey too willingly. I think the spell, and it is already done. I would like a wand, with resistance.
Ollivander places the Elder Wand back on the counter. Carefully, handle facing the owner. There is something in this gesture reminiscent of returning an item that is not eligible for return.
Wands do not darken, sir. Requests darken.
Dumbledore stands for a few more seconds, then takes his wand and leaves. The bell above the door jingles after him. He still hasn't bought a new wand. Would you have sold one if you were in Ollivander's place? There is a third scene from this series, the shortest one. Hogsmeade, the Hog's Head evening. The Minister of Magic approaches his brother's inn unaccompanied, for the first time in 20 years, by the way. Aberforth sees him through the murky glass. He steps out from behind the bar, walks to the door, and locks it from the inside. Then he turns off the sign. Dumbledore stands in front of the locked door under the beginning rain, and here I too will probably remain silent for a couple of seconds, just like him. 63rd year. Tom Riddle enters the minister's office. He is 36. He is the head of the Department of Mysteries, and for some reason, time does not touch him, even though there are no Horcruxes, I remind you, not a single one. He places a folder on the table. The project is named boringly, like everything truly frightening. Program for Preventive Mental Assessment of Hogwarts Graduates. Translating from the ministry, legilimency for every 7th-year student. to look into their minds, check for destructive tendencies, and file them away. For the early detection of future dark wizards, who, if not us, Minister, knows what difficult children grow into. Dumbledore reads the folder for a very long time. Outside it is getting dark, and the lamps light up by themselves. If you step back and squint, on the table in front of him lies the same box from the orphanage of Vula, an accordion, a thimble, a yo-yo. Only now it contains 700 children's heads every year, and the state will be the one to open it. Tom stands by the window and does not rush. He never rushes. Why would someone who won 25 years ago be in a hurry? The pen drops. Dumbledore's signature is beautiful, with a flourish. The scratching of the pen, and on that scratch let's glue together 2 frames. The Minister's office, 63rd, and room 2738. Power without oversight becomes hunger, Tom. I will be your oversight. For 25 years the phrase hung in the air, and now finally it is clear who lacked oversight in it. Hint, not the boy with the box. Tom takes the signed folder. At the door he stops and allows himself a single moment of triumph in all of history. Quiet, without a monologue, without laughter, even without a proper smile.
You were so afraid that I would become a monster that you built a world where the monster is the norm. I didn't even have to do anything. Thank you, Professor.
The door closes softly. Dumbledore sits at the table and looks at his signature. Silence number 3. And this time he has no one to be silent in front of except for himself. There will be no epilogue with a battle, I warn you right away. No one will burst into the Ministry with a resistance squad. No chosen one will be born with a scar. If Harry Potter appears in this timeline, he will be just an ordinary boy in an ordinary family, because there is no one for the prophecies to speak about. The Dark Lord is gone. There is a respected official Riddle and a beloved Minister Dumbledore, and the system they built together works like clockwork. This is the horror. There is no one to stop the clock. Instead of a battle, a storeroom on the 4th floor of Hogwarts, where the Minister enters during the annual visit to the school. Among the discarded furniture stands a mirror in a golden frame, and Dumbledore recognizes it before he sees the inscription on the rim. Einelage, the deepest desires of the heart. Long ago, in another life, he saw his family in this glass, whole, alive, forgiving. He approaches and looks. From the mirror, he sees himself. Not family, him. 30 years old, in a cheap teaching robe, without orders and without a position. Just a professor of transfiguration who hasn't signed anything yet. And this young Albus looks at the old man with exactly the same gaze he once used to look at Gellert Grindelwald after Ariana. Dumbledore endures this gaze for almost a minute. Then he covers the mirror with a cloth. His hand misses the first time and leaves without looking back. Hagrid is waiting for him at the castle gates. The gamekeeper with a greying beard, something rustling in his pockets, just as it should be. He is beaming. Of course, the Minister himself, his old professor. Hagrid will never learn about that night in 43, but he repeats the same thing his whole life, at every celebration, in every inn, to everyone who is willing to listen. I always said so, Professor. Ah, Tom, you raised him well. I always said that. Dumbledore looks at the gates, at the road, at the warm light from the windows of the Great Hall, then at Hagrid.
Yes, Hagrid. That's the problem.
Hagrid laughs. He thinks it's a joke. The Minister walks to the gates and the gravel crunches under his feet evenly, steadily, like a metronome. Meanwhile, first-year students are being seated in the Great Hall. September, sorting, candles under the ceiling. 2 grand portraits hang above the teacher's desk, heroes of the war against Grindelwald, a teacher and a student, both adorned with orders. The children look up at them with the same awe and cannot tell them apart. Frankly, it's hard to blame them. Try to tell them apart. So here's a question for you, and you'll answer it without me. 100 years from now, when these freshmen become a paragraph in the history of magic textbook, the signature Dark Wizard will be printed under one of the 2 portraits. The question is not under which, The question is whether the textbook will be right. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe to the channel. I will be glad to new subscribers, especially if you write a new topic for a video in the comments.